New Directions, if I could sum it up in one word, it is transformative. It transformed my life. It transformed my mom's life. We lived in the desert at that time, and we were living in a house with no electricity. We were living by candlelight, no hot water, no fridge. I went to school with dirty clothes. I would just lie. I lied about my home life because that was where my protection was, and what people didn't know saved me. When I was in 3rd grade, I got held back because I was home so much more than I was at school. My mom would be throwing up and I'd have to hold her hair back. Her room was at the end of the hallway, straight shot down the hall. And I used to charge so I could bust her door down to stop her from drinking or doing some sort of drug or meeting with some guy. We took off and went to the boyfriend's house, and it was late, and begging my mom to go home, and it was hot, it was nighttime, and we could smell like smoke in the air, and there were fire trucks everywhere. And by the time we got there, we had realized that our house had burnt down. And I was happy. That house was gone, and I had nothing but bad memories, and I didn't want to go home, and now I didn't have to. We lived there with this man who just became increasingly abusive. He didn't just hit her, he hit me all the time. And we used to have this rock fireplace, and he threw me against it and held me up against it by my throat. My feet would dangle. He would throw my toys at me. He would go buy me toys to throw them at me. Sorry. The cops took my mom, and they needed a place to take me, and the judge knew about New Directions and said, you can bring your daughter here. I didn't want to go. My outer shell was very hard, and I also had a lot of resentment against my mom. I saw New Directions as another sacrifice I had to make. I had to uproot my life again, go to a new school again, make new friends again, be uncomfortable again. The staff at New Directions felt that it would be wise if I sat with a counselor weekly. So I got my own counselor, separate from my mom. Very impactful woman in my life. She helped me with a lot of my anger and resentment. She helped me learn about alcoholism and about it being a disease, about the 12 steps. I've spent my whole life as the adult, as the caretaker, and it was my counselor that kind of said, your mom is to be the mom and to be the parent, and you are to be the kid. And how do we work that relationship out? I was one of the oldest kids that had gone through New Directions. All the toys there were for younger kids. The only thing that I could really do was play basketball. And I even had a few of my counseling sessions. My counselor would be like, let's go do something that you're more comfortable instead of sitting in an office. We'd go play basketball together. And she would ask me questions, you know, she's like, okay, if I make this one, you have to answer my question. Like, okay. And then like, if I make this one, we don't talk anymore. And we just play. So the time there went from being something I hated to something I loved and I didn't want to leave. That was 16 years ago, this last March, and my mom is still sober. And every day since then, we look back knowing we were a part of each other's worst and best times, because I got to see a lot of her hurt and she got to see a lot of mine, and where we were standing in this same situation, in this same spot, but two totally different perspectives, and finally seeing it from that other person's perspective, that draws us close together. That's forever going to be a part of who we are. And we wouldn't have that if we didn't have New Directions and if we couldn't have done it together.